Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning, Mr. Poston. Good morning, Mr. Davis.
Good morning, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is the interpreter, as you said. I have a 10 o'clock matter scheduled in an appellate hearing here in a criminal division,
Okay.
10 o'clock, but I see that our speaking person is number 23rd in the list. I wonder if something might be done to expedite it. It would be appreciated.
Let's see if we can get him seen right after Miss Danielle.
Thank you very much. I'll stand by.
Dale, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Is there any way we can get Mr. Solis, our Spanish speaker, moved up in the lineup?
Yes. Do you want after Monroe, or do you want this to be the first one?
I have Marlene Danielle first. Is that who we're seeing first?
She's at a 10th out.
She's at a temp out. Okay, so we're not seeing her at all, so we need to roll her. Okay. Yeah, so we can do Mr. Solis after Mr. Monroe.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. I'll stand by.
Absolutely.
So I already filled out all of these things, so I don't know what
to see.
now or if she's gonna be rolled for tonight.
If you just want to see that, yeah, just straight through and just take it.
Are you being?
Oops. Should I grab another file? Yeah, that's the next one that we're gonna do, our Spanish speaker. Good morning.
No. Okay, we're just gonna listen to the judge right now, okay?
Good morning.
Good morning, Judge.
Hi, tell me your full name, sir.
I'm not interested in these proceedings. I mean, you know, as far as they said to tell you, Senior Supervisor Bruns or any of the supervisors, you can contact them, and they say she'll let you leave, walk out. You know, the incident happened per the
Okay, Judge. No,
it's on itinerary.
no.
So, sir, what I'm asking you for right now is just to tell me your name. Can you tell me who you are?
Robert Monroe.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Monroe. So you're here on a few different matters this morning, and we're not here to talk about the facts or the circumstances of any of those today. We're here to talk about your release conditions and whether or not you're going to stay in custody or if you're going to get released. So that's the purpose of these proceedings. I just want to make sure that you know what's going on and what you're actually here for. Can we do that real quick and I'll explain that to you and then you can be done?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like you're here on possession of drug paraphernalia and aggravated assault, and then a couple of misdemeanor cases involving failing to appear on a shoplifting case and not providing your name to someone. So those are the things that we're seeing you for this morning. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these things today. Anything you say can and will be used against you. There is a felony aggravated assault charge, and the drug paraphernalia charge is also a felony. So on those matters, you're entitled to an attorney, and I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you today. You have an attorney seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today as we talk about conditions of release. I've had a chance to review information that pretrial services has prepared for me that just tells me a little bit about you and why we're here today. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation about your conditions of release. Like your attorney, she'll be telling me here in a minute what she would like to do with conditions of release. I'm going to hear from the prosecutor first. Looks like they're asking for a $10,000 bond. Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, without provocation, this person assaulted a Suntran bus driver and split his lip and caused him various other injuries. And the fact is, there was no cause for this. He assaulted this bus driver without any reason or motivation, and this person poses a danger to the community. He is rated a 6 out of 6, has an active NVCA flag, and has priors. $10,000.
All right, what's the defense's position on conditions this morning?
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Monroe is released to pretrial services, or if you're not inclined, a $2,000 bond. He has lifelong ties to Tucson.
All right, so Mr. Monroe, I am going to impose a bond today in the amount of $2,500.
Okay, I asked the man to call the police.
Okay, so I know defense is muting. Sir, here's what happens. When you start talking about the offenses, your attorney mutes the mic. Anything you say about what happened with these offenses is something that can be used against you. So that's why we're not going to talk about those. And I can't hear you until she turns the mic back on, sir. So I am going to impose a bond today of $2,500. That is cash or secured. You're going to be released to pretrial services if you can post that bond, and you just need to stay in contact with that agency. Participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms. Don't have any contact with the victim, and don't go back to the incident location. I'm going to have to give you a couple different court dates, Mr. Monroe. Are you ready for the first one?
Understand that.
Okay, we just gotta listen right now.
I don't want to, I'm not interested in these proceedings at all. You
That's
guys
okay.
keep just to make
Let's just
sense.
listen. Let's just
I'm not
listen.
talking about, I'm not interested in going to jail or your little kangaroo.
So I just need to give you some court dates, Mr. Monroe. Your court date for the felony case is going to be December 27th at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand all of that, Mr. Monroe? I'm not saying you have to like it. I just need to know whether or not you understand it.
And what's your full name?
Do you
What's your name?
Do you understand what I'm asking you, sir?
Yeah, you haven't told me your name.
I'm Judge Miller.
Judge Miller, Cheryl Miller, Carol Miller.
So if, she's just asking if you're gonna go to court if you post the bond.
I'm not interested in being in jail or incarcerated. Right now, you guys incarcerated me last time. I have to wait till I get the Phoenix until I can go over there and
So, Mr. Monroe, I just need to know if you understand that you have a future court date that you need to go to. The rest of it we can talk about later. You've got an attorney that'll talk about all of that with you. Do you understand?
Believe me, Judge, what they're doing is
Mr. Monroe, I just need you to tell me if you understand.
I'll have you arrested.
Do you understand, sir?
I'm gonna have you arrested. I said what I said.
Do you know you have court? There, you have a court date?
Have arrested.
But so she's asking if you know that you have a court date.
I'm not gonna, I mean, what?
So, Mr. Monroe, it does appear that you're understanding things that are going on. You're just upset and you don't like the outcome. So I'm going to take that as a yes, you appear to be understanding everything I'm saying. You just don't want to answer. So you have your court date on the felony case, your court date for the misdemeanor matters we talked about, the warrants for your arrest. I'm going to release you on those matters. Your next court date is going to be January 16th at 8:30. That's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. So you have both of your court dates, sir, on your felony and your misdemeanor. You just need to make sure that you show up. You're all done for today. Maddie, did you get the rest of those?
Oh, yeah?
No, alliance. Are you sure? Hey, you know what it says. Good stories, right? Nine of these. Stories, what's that? Stories. That's up. Stories.
Hi, sir. Tell me your full name.
Hola, señor, diga su nombre completo. Señor, diga su nombre completo, por favor.
Marco Antonio Solís.
Marco Antonio Solís.
Mr. Solis, you are here today on a warrant out of Tucson City Court for a shoplifting charge. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you.
Señor, está aquí detenido por orden de detención del juzgado municipal por acusaciones de ratería de tiendas. Cualquier cosa que diga podrá ser usada en contra suya, así es que tiene derecho a guardar silencio.
If I release you on this charge today, sir, will you promise to show up at a future court date that I give you so you can get this matter resolved?
Señor, si le permito salir de la cárcel el día de hoy, ¿promete presentarse el día indicado cuando le digamos para resolver este asunto que tiene pendiente?
Claro que sí.
Certainly.
I have an address for you on East Golf Links Road. Is that still a good address?
Tengo una dirección aquí en su registro por la Golf Links. ¿Sigue siendo una dirección vigente para usted?
Sí, familiar, sí.
Yes, it is.
All right. I am going to release you on your promise to appear today. Your conditions of release involve not having any contact with the victims. That means don't go back to the incident location where the shoplifting occurred.
Ahora, voy a permitir que salga usted el día de hoy con la promesa de presentarse, pero sin primero tener contacto con la víctima ni de regresar al sitio de los sucesos donde ocurrió este incidente de ratería de tiendas.
Your next court date is going to be January 22nd, 2025 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Crenshaw.
La próxima comparecencia suya será el 22 de enero a las 2 de la tarde en el juzgado municipal ante el juez Crenshaw.
You must appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Debe usted presentarse ese día, esa hora. De otra manera, se ordena su arresto si no se presenta. ¿Entiende las consecuencias de no presentarse?
Sí, claro que sí.
Yes, certainly.
All right, you're all done for today, sir. Thank you.
Es todo por hoy. Gracias, señor. Puede retirarse.
Gracias.
Thank you, Pedro. Have a good
Thank you.
day.
Good day.
Thank you. Thanks to the staff, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right.
Your Honor, Danielle just came back from the hospital. Do you want to see her now?
Sure.
All right, sounds good. She'll be on her way here.
Now that I've crossed through it and hit continue. Is that hers? Oh, thank you.
Right here, it's there.
So, Jeff, about this.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Marlene Marie Hernandez.
Give me just one moment. Do you also go by Daniil?
No, I go by Hernandez.
All right.
That's my ex-husband's brother's girlfriend there. She's Marlene too.
So Marlene, what's your middle name? Is it Marie?
My name is Marie Hernandez, yes.
Okay, all right. So ma'am, you are here today on charges out of Tucson City Court. They're all warrants for reckless burning, a general warrant involving burning trash, criminal trespass, and disorderly conduct. It looks like
No, I just-
you have
There's
failed.
no, I'm not got a ticket for no fire. I've not got a ticket for no fire. I only got, and it wasn't even a trespass. I just went to my husband's house, and somebody had went in there and
No, ma'am,
broke into.
hang on. So
I didn't even knock. I just knocked on the door. I didn't even do it.
wait, Ms. Hernandez. So anything that you say about this can and will be used against you. I don't want to talk
Oh, yeah.
about we don't want to talk about the offenses here today. What we're here to talk about is your conditions of release and whether or not I release you from custody, and if you're actually going to show up at a court date that I give you, or if you need to be held in jail.
No, yeah, I go, but what I don't understand is when I came to this county 4 months ago, nobody gave me read between the lines. I'm blind here. I'm disabled. What are you guys gonna do about that?
So
Because I can't read. I'm just asking you, what is it that you guys could do when I leave here? Can you give me what it is to read between the lines? Because that's what it is here. And I applied for food stamps. Under Marlene Hernandez. I'm not Danielle. So are you gonna agree with giving me what it is that the county of Pima County
Ms.
didn't give
Hernandez,
me?
here's what
Okay.
here's what I'm going to do today
All
on
right.
these charges.
Facts.
I'm going to impose a bond on these charges of $500. That's going to be a cash or secured bond. I'm going to appoint the city public defender's office to represent you, and they'll be able to assist you with the things that you're talking about here today. If you do end up posting the bond and you get released, don't have any contact with the victims wherever the disorderly conduct and criminal trespass occurred. Don't go back to that incident location. Your next hearing is going to be a video review hearing. It's going to be December 27th at 1:45 in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Verena, and that'll be via video, just like you're doing here today if you're still in custody. If you get released, your hearing is going to be January 27th at 2 p.m., also in front of Judge Verena. So those are the two court dates. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Okay, but am I getting released on the next court date? Because I mean, you're not letting me speak, so I'm trying to ask because you're allowing me to be really. I mean, I can't. I got plugs in my ears. I can't hear.
So you have a
I'm-
$500 bond. If you post the $500 bond, then you're going to be
But
released.
you just said no. You told me I could get out if I go to my next court date.
I said you're going to have a video court date if you're still in custody and you don't post your bond on December 27th. If you do post your $500 bond, then you have a different court date. You're all done? You're all done for
Princess.
today, Ms. Hernandez? All done?
Yeah.
Signature. Brown, state Brown, that's for here.
Hi, tell me your name.
Oh, Travis Barker.
Mr. Barker, you were here today on multiple cases. Many of them are out of Tucson City Court. They're warrants out of Tucson City Court. And then you also have a warrant out of Marana. Your charges involve shoplifting, failing to appear, more shoplifting charges, obstruction charges, possession of prescription drugs, drug paraphernalia, and also criminal trespass. You do have a right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Looks like these cases go back to 2021. They're pretty old. I have an address for you that is a general delivery address. Are those still your circumstances, Mr. Barker?
Yes.
All right. Given the failures to appear, Mr. Barker, I am going to impose a bond here today on your Tucson City Court charges. That bond is going to be $500. It'll be a cash or secured amount. If you do use the $500 bond, you're not to have any contact with the victims. Wherever the criminal trespasses and shoplifting occurred, you're not allowed to go back to those locations. That's where the victims are. I'm going to appoint the City Public Defender's Office to represent you. Your next hearing is going to be a video review hearing on December 27th at 1:45 in the afternoon. That's going to be in front of Judge Maldonado. And that's going to be on all of your city court matters so that you can get those resolved. If you do post bond, then your next hearing will be January 27th at 9 a.m. That's Maldonado. If you do post bond and you get released, sir, make sure you get a copy of your paperwork. If you can't post bond, you'll stay there until your city court matters get resolved. I want to talk with you about your Marana case now. It's a shoplifting. It's also a failure to appear. This one dates back to 2022 and 2023. It looks like you were given a couple different opportunities to go to court and you failed to appear. I'm going to release you on the Marana case and we're going to set a hearing for December 18th at 12 o'clock. And you're going to be seen via video, much like you're doing here today if you're still in custody. If you get out of custody, you're going to have to appear at Marana City Court. Do you understand all of those conditions of release, Mr. Barker?
Can I please ask that there be the bond released? I don't know how to. I have there's absolutely no possible way to pay this. This is I know no one.
So, Mr. Barker, the concern I have is the multiple failures to appear at both courts. So, one of the things I have to consider in releasing someone is whether or not you're going to show up at court, and you just don't do that. So, there's going to be a bond that's imposed today on the city court cases. Again, it's a cash or secured bond, but if you can't post that bond, you'll stay there. You'll be seen tomorrow by Marana City Court so that you can try to get that case resolved. And then on December 27th at 1:45, you'll see Judge Maldonado, and then you'll be able to get all of those cases resolved. So that's the court's order for today. You're all done, Mr. Barker, sorry. Hi, tell me your full name.
Cristian Omar de la Rosa.
Mr. De La Rosa, you're here on a couple different matters today. Looks like you have a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court. You have a case out of Tucson City Court. That one involves drug paraphernalia, driving on a suspended license. Your Justice Court matter is a DUI case. And I'm also showing a Superior Court hold for you. Is that right, Jail?
Yes.
So regardless of what I do on these other cases, Mr. De La Rosa, you're going to be held on the felony. So for the Pima County Justice Court case today, you have a right to remain silent on all of the charges we're here to talk about. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $250 on your Pima County Justice Court case. That's a cash or secured bond. I'm going to appoint David Mize to represent you. It looks like he's represented you in the past on this case. Your next hearing in the Justice Court matter is going to be December 18th. That's tomorrow at 1 o'clock. If you're still in custody, then you will be seen via video, much like you're doing here today. If you post the bond and you get out, you're going to have to appear on your own at Pima County Justice Court. Conditions of release involve not driving without a valid license and not having any alcohol or illegal drugs. Do you understand all of those conditions on your Justice Court case, Mr. De La Rosa?
Yes.
And then on your Tucson City Court case, I am going to release you on that case. And that's the drug paraphernalia, driving on a suspended license. Your next hearing in that matter is going to be January 21st, 2025 at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Mayhew. You do need to appear at that date and time in Tucson City Court, or they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearings?
Yes.
And on the Tucson City Court charges, this is also the time for your arraignment on those. You are presumed innocent. I'm entering not guilty pleas on your behalf. In addition to a warrant being issued for your arrest if you don't show up on those charges, that hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial, can go forward in your absence. If you're convicted at the trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, then you could also lose your right to appeal that case. Do you understand those other consequences, Mr. De La Rosa? All right, you're all done for today.
Thanks.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Manuel Íñiguez.
Your full name.
Manuel Íñiguez González Jr.
Thank you, sir. You are here on a few different matters today. It looks like you have some cases out of Tucson City Court, all of which involve warrants, threats and intimidation, criminal trespass, drug paraphernalia, being in parks after hours. And then you're also here on a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court for disorderly conduct, criminal trespass, and assault. You do have the right to remain silent on all these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I'm showing an address for you on East Hodgman Place. Is that the right address, sir? That's a good address for you? That is, okay.
Yes.
It looks like the Justice Court warrant is from 2021. So that's been out a long time. I have the option of releasing you today or imposing a bond. But if I release you, you have to promise to show up at 2 separate court dates that I give you to get these matters taken care of. Will you do that?
Yes. Yes.
Right. So on the Justice Court matter, I am going to release you. Your next hearing is going to be January 16th at 8:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. You're not to have any contact with the victim of that disorderly conduct. Don't return to the incident location. If you fail to appear on that January 16th date, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Thanks.
Okay, we need to talk about your city court cases. I'm going to release you on those cases as well today, sir, but you're going to have to appear in Tucson City Court on January 22nd at 9 a.m., and that's going to be in front of Judge Hale. If you fail to appear at that time, again, Tucson City Court can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Do not return to the incident location. Wherever those parks were that you're not supposed to be, do not go back there. Do you understand that?
Understand.
Okay, and these aren't gonna go away, sir. You've got to go to your court hearings and get them taken care of, or they're just gonna keep arresting you and you're gonna find yourself back in jail. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I understand.
Right, make sure you get your paperwork when you get released, so you have those dates. You're all done for today. The next one's the victim.
Hello, Your Honor.
Hi, tell me your name.
Luis Antonio Molina.
Mr. Molina, you are here today on charges of assault and disorderly conduct. These are domestic violence offenses, and it looks like 2 counts of disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. We also have a victim on the line. Is there someone on the phone for this case that wanted to address the court?
I have all I want is for my brother to get help. He has anger issues. He has depression. He's an alcoholic. I can no longer have him. I've given him many opportunities to get help, to seek help. My parents and I cannot help him. It's out of our control. He's not welcome here at in this home until he gets help. He needs some kind of outpatient or some kind of treatment. He needs to be sent immediately to rehabilitation to get psychological help. He's not fully capable, and he needs help. It's out of our control, and I can't help him. My parents can't help him. He's killing everybody around him.
So today, Mr. Molina, thank you for being here and providing that feedback. The only thing we're here to talk about today is conditions of release, and that is whether your brother gets released from custody and what the conditions are going to be today. I do note that pretrial services was able to get in contact with your mom. It looks like she indicated, it looks like from what she told pretrial, she was willing to have contact with your brother. Is that something that has changed since your conversation with her?
I just spoke to her. I guess they called her at 5 and called me at 6. And there's no reason. There's no reason for him to have contact with my mother and I until he gets help. You know, there's no value in that. All there is anger and rage.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Molina, I have had a chance to review a pretrial services report regarding your conditions of release. I'm going to release you today. These are your only charges. However, you are not to have any contact with the victims. You can't have any contact with your mom or your brother, and you cannot go back to their homes. So you've heard your brother's pleas for you to be able to get some help. That's so the court's orders now are: do not return to your mom's house, your brother's house. Don't have any contact with them right now. I'm going to give you another court date. If I give you that court date, will you promise to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
When you get released today,
Your Honor.
hang on, sir, just 1 second, and I'll hear from you again. Okay, hang on. When you get released later today, right outside the jail, adjacent to the jail property is a trailer. It's the transition center, and they have a wide variety of resources to help people in our community. They're very connected with community partners that can assist with mental health, substance abuse, housing, a number of services here in our community. I would encourage you to stop by the transition center so that you have an opportunity to see what may be available for you beginning today.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Hang on, Mr. Molina, the victim.
Yes.
Yes, John. I'm only going to call the cops again because I know that he's going to call my mom as soon as we hang up the phone or as soon as he's released. And I know that he's going to come back, so I will be calling the cops again. There's no reason for him to be released. He needs help.
Okay, well, these are the only charges today. I am going to release him, but his order is that he not have any contact with you. So he's not allowed to go back. If he does that, he will be in violation of the court order, and you are certainly free to call law enforcement to let them know if he's having contact with you, because the order is that he is not allowed to do that. He's also not allowed to commit any further acts of domestic violence. So that's the court's order today. Your next hearing, Mr. Molina, is going to be January 16th at 10:30 in the morning. That hearing is going to be at Pima County Justice Court. You are ordered to appear at that date and time, and if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. My orders here today stay in full force and effect unless and until some other judge changes them. So you heard your brother's concerns. Do not go back to your parents' house. Do not go anywhere near them. Do you understand that? I need to hear you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Yes, Your Honor.
thank you. And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear at your hearing on the 16th?
Absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Molina, thank you for calling in. We're all done with this matter.
Thank you very much.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Ramirez.
Mr. Ramirez, you were here on a couple of different things today. It looks like we have some cases out of Tucson City Court. Involve prescription drugs, drug paraphernalia, and a shoplifting. You're also here on a shoplifting case out of Pima County Justice Court. You do have the right to remain silent on all of those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I have an address for you on East Calle, Arizona. Is that still a good address for you?
Yes.
So, Ms. Ramirez, these hearings are not going to go away. These matters are not going to go away. So
I know.
if I release you today, especially on the city court matters, because they keep stacking up and getting worse for you, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you?
Promise. I will show up.
All right. I'm going to release you on all of these matters today. When you get released today, hey, it's not over, right? You get released today, but you have to go to these court hearings.
Yes, ma'am.
If you don't go, they're going to issue warrants for you. You're going to find
And if you
yourself
do
back
worse.
where you are today. And then
No.
I know you're saying no, but you need to follow through with that, okay?
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, we're going to talk about a couple of different things. I'm going to give you some future court dates. You're going to get 2 separate court dates. When you get released today, make sure you get your paperwork because it's going to have the date and the address where you need to appear. So for Justice Court on the shoplifting case, you are not to return to the incident location where the shoplifting occurred. The victims are there. You can't have any contact with them. Your next hearing is going to be January 16th, 2025 at 8:30 in the morning, and that's at Justice Court. As I've said, if you fail to appear at that date and time, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand all of that?
Yes.
Now, on your city court cases, I am going to release you on those as well.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Your next hearing on those cases is going to be January 22nd at 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's going to be in front of Judge Hale at Tucson City Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. Don't have any contact with the victims. Don't go near the incident location. Do you understand all of that, Ms. Ramirez?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So this is also, it looks like all of these are warrant matters. Hang on a second.
I will show up, I promise.
You need to make sure you go to those court dates. Like I said, if you don't show up, they're going to issue more warrants and you're going to find yourself back here and probably not released the next time. So you have some charges related to prescription drug use. There is a center, it's called the Transition Center, right outside the Pima County Jail. It's adjacent there. They provide a whole bunch of services to folks in our community, or they'll connect you with services in the community for substance abuse if that's something that you want to get assistance with. If you get when you get released today, if you go by that trailer, just stop in there and talk to them and see if there's something that they may be able to do to assist you and get you connected. It's not it's not an order, but it's an option, and I would encourage you to do that. All right,
Yes, ma'am.
you're all done for
Yes,
today.
ma'am.
Need all of her papers. So
Have to sit up there, remember.
I'm going to hand it back to you. Hi, tell me your name.
Josephine Romero.
Mr. Romero, you are here on a couple of different matters. It looks like you are here on a city, South Tucson case. It's a warrant involving a domestic violence incident. And then you're also here on a Tucson City Court case, also involving a warrant for domestic violence disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent on all of those cases, both of them. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Looks like the city court matter goes back to 2023, that warrant. Did you know you had that warrant out there?
I actually only thought I had one, and I wasn't sure about the other one.
Okay, so you have two, one in South Tucson and one in Tucson City Court. I'm
Okay.
showing an address of general delivery at this time. Are those still your circumstances?
I'm actually on the streets right now.
Okay, we're going to talk about, we'll talk about, we'll talk about the transition center in a minute. So, Mr. Romero, I can release you
Yes.
today if you will promise to show up at the court dates that I give you. Will you do that?
Yes.
There was a lot of hesitation there.
Well, I have a lot of things kind of stopping me in that area. And I'm just being upfront. I just had my wallet. Well, my wallet is gone. I'm gonna have to get that organized either way. I'm on the streets, can't get into a shelter. I probably can call my kids to come and get me, but it's also late too. I wouldn't mind getting released. Yes, it would help my husband too. So yes, I will keep that promise. Guaranteed.
So let's talk about the transition center.
Okay.
Adjacent to the jail is a trailer, and I'm going to release you today on these two cases and give you court dates. Your court dates are going to be in January, so you're going to have a little bit of time when you get released to get your paperwork. We're going to talk about the dates, but the paperwork you pick up will also have the dates on them. You need to make sure that you appear for those court dates, or they're just going to keep issuing warrants for you. Okay? These two matters are not going to go away, so you need to show up and just get them taken care of. The transition center, when you get released today, is connected to many services in our community. They provide services for housing, for substance abuse, for mental health. There's all kinds of services they may be able to connect you with. I would
I've heard that.
You've been
I've
to,
actually tried. I tried getting into a shelter when, I tried to get into a shelter when I had my ID. And I was unable to get through. I was unable to get any services to get in.
Okay.
And now that I don't have my ID, I don't even think we're good enough. I'm actually going to get that. I tried getting into Salvation Army, and for that meaning, I don't have an ID and they won't let me.
Okay, so go by the transition center. So if you, it's not going to hurt for you to go see them. They will talk to you without an ID, and there are people who can help get you connected to ways to get that ID back. I have specialty courts over in Superior Court, and we have people that are in the community who do just that, help people get their identifications back, help them get connected with other services. So it's possible to get that help, but I would encourage you to go to the transition center today when you get out to see what they can do to help you so that you can get your ID and they can help get you situated into whatever services you need. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So your hearing in South Tucson City Court is going to be January 7th, 2025 at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm releasing you, but you are not to return to the incident location or have contact with the victim of that domestic violence charge. Your Tucson City Court case, I'm going to release you on that as well. You're going to get a different court date. That one's going to be January 23rd of 2025 at 9:30 in front of Judge Verena. Again, when you get released, you'll get a copy of your paperwork and it's going to have those court dates on them. What were you going to say? Go ahead.
The domestic violence so-called, is that at the hotel?
I don't have the South Tucson information on that warrant. All I
You
have
said
is.
something. Okay, you said something with domestic violence, with whom?
That's gonna be on the interim complaint, and that's what I do, or the ticket, and I just don't have that for South
Or the
Tucson. All I
victim?
have is South Tucson will be able to help you that when you go to your court dates. Okay, what I have today is a copy of the warrant asking for your arrest for those cases. That's what I can see.
Okay,
Right.
one last question. When you release me, the person that you said I have to stay away from for any domestic violence, does that have any possibility to have my husband's name on it? Because I'm going to my kid's house, and if he ends up getting released, we'll be going in the same place. I just don't want to make any more issues because he's not pressing charges or anything in that, if that has anything to do with that. Even I know what you said though.
So for your Tucson City
Yeah.
court case, I'm not gonna impose any
Okay.
contact orders. I did on your
Okay.
South Tucson case, but I did not on your Tucson City Court. Your Tucson City Court case is a disorderly conduct involving, yes, and that one did occur at a hotel.
Okay.
That one was the one that happened at the Mints.
Is that the one you were talking about or the other one? Because I'm not sure which.
This one, the Tucson City Court one that did occur, that was back in October of 2023 at the hotel. And it does look like that was with a boyfriend or spouse. And that was yelling and
Okay.
arguing.
So-
So I am not,
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
okay. I am not restricting contact with the victim on that case. The only order is do not commit any further acts of domestic violence and go to
Okay.
your court date that I gave you. Those are the things you
Yes.
have to do.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Romero, do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearings?
Yes, I do.
You're all done.
Right, thank you.
Salazar.
Yeah. No? Give me just a second, ma'am. I'm filling out some paperwork.
Okay.
Mhm. All right, tell me your full name.
Pina Marie Salazar.
Ms. Salazar, you are here today on charges of domestic violence, disorderly conduct. There are 3 counts. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services that tells me a little bit about you and the circumstances of this offense. If I release you today, ma'am, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes.
The other thing is you're going to have to find somewhere else to reside until a further order of the court. Can you do that?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a court date here in just a second.
Okay.
I don't know what's happening with it. All right, so your conditions of release, as I've indicated, I'm going to release you today, Ms. Salazar. You're not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. You cannot have contact with the victims in this case, and you cannot return to the incident location. Sounds like you're able to establish an alternate address. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you need to return to that location for any of your belongings?
Yes.
I'm going to check a box on your conditions that indicate that you can return one time with a police escort to get your belongings. So when you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of this order with the release conditions. It'll have that box checked. You need to take it to a nearby police station or call the police and let them know that you have an order to go collect your belongings. They'll meet you somewhere away from the residence. So don't go back to the incident location and wait there for them. You need to go somewhere else to meet them nearby, and they'll go with you to get your things. Okay? Your next hearing date is going to be January 16th, 2025 at 10:30 in the morning at Pima County Justice Court. You do need to appear at that date and time. If you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today.
Tapia.
So
Morning, tell me your name.
Cristina Tapia Flores.
Ms. Tapia Flores, you are here today on 2 charges of disorderly conduct out of Tucson City Court. You also have some warrants out of Pima County Justice Court. One, looks like both of them are for shoplifting and 3rd-degree criminal trespass. One goes back to August of 2022. The other one is August and September of this year. You do have the right to remain silent on all of these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. There are warrants in the amount of $500 and $100 on your justice court matters. I am going to impose a bond on your justice court matters today in the amount of $500, cash or secured. I'm appointing Anna Dennis to represent you on these charges. Your next hearing is going to be tomorrow, December 18th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. That's going to be via video, much like you're doing here today, Ms. Flores, unless you're able to post that $500 bond. And again, it's a $500 bond for just the justice court cases on both matters. Do you understand those conditions?
Yeah, whatever you want.
And then if you fail to appear, if you post that bond, they could issue a warrant. Do you understand that as well?
I don't have money, so I don't got, I'll stay.
Okay. And then your city court matter is disorderly conduct charges, a couple of domestic violence offenses. Looks like the victims in that matter are your sons.
Wow. Wow, okay.
So on your city court.
And that is a lie. But you know what? I don't
Ma'am.
want to hear no more.
Ma'am, we're not going to talk about the offenses today anyway, okay? We're not talking about those.
I'd rather go to, instead of hearing lies, I'd rather go to do jail time.
Okay, ma'am. So we need to talk about
I'd
your.
rather do time. No, I don't want to talk. I would never hurt my kids. I love my kids.
Okay. So for right now, what's going to happen on your city court cases is you're to commit no acts of domestic violence.
I heard them talking.
And you can't have any contact with the victims in the case. You're being held on the JP court matters, but I'm going to release you on your city court cases and give you another court date in the future. That's going to be January 15th at 10 a.m. in front of Judge Hale.
I told negatives, okay?
Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yeah, I would like to go to jail now. I would rather go to the cell
Yeah, you're
than
gonna.
hear all this.
You're
I'd rather go to the cell. Thank you.
You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hours. Out there.
Ma'am, go have a seat out there, this door.
I know I'm going out.
That door's not out there.
That's all liars.
Hey, sir, give me just a second.
100%.
No.
How much?
City court calls it different things. I don't know whether they're doing. Yeah. No, you're good. Okay, tell me your name.
Orion Bowers.
Mr. Bowers, you are here today on charges of disorderly conduct, criminal damage. Both of them are domestic violence offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review some information provided by pretrial services on this case. It's going to be out of Tucson City Court. If I release you on these charges, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not going to be allowed to have any contact with Miss Montez. Are you going to abide by that condition if I release you?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're not living with her, right?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I am going to release you today, Mr. Bowers, on your promise to appear. You're to commit no acts of domestic violence. You can't have any contact with the victim in this case, Miss Montez. Do not go to where she is living or working. Do you understand all of those conditions?
Yes, Your Honor.
This is also the time for the arraignment on these charges. I am going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. You are presumed innocent. Your next court date in this case is going to be January 21st, 2025 at 1:30 at Tucson City Court in front of Judge Millian. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork. It'll have the date and time and the address for Tucson City Court. Make sure you get that so that you appear. If you fail to appear, a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Also, that hearing and any subsequently set hearings can go forward in your absence, including a trial. If you're convicted at that trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you could also lose your right to appeal that conviction. Do you understand all the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're all done for today, Mr. Bowers.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Alexis Valerie Grelias.
Ms. Gredias, you are here today on a couple of matters out of Tucson City Court. They involve criminal trespass and then the assault and another criminal trespass that are domestic violence offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. The victim in this case is Mr. Fry. It looks like he is your boyfriend. Pretrial services was not able to contact him to talk about his position on conditions. So if I release you today, you're not going to be able to have any contact with him. Do you have someplace else you can stay? Are you living with him?
No, I'm not.
So you can, all right. So are you going to abide by the order to not have any contact with him?
Yes, Your
Right.
Honor.
If I release you, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in the future?
Yes, I will.
All right. This is also the time for your arraignment on these charges. You are presumed innocent. I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on your behalf. Your next court date is going to be January 24th, 2025 at 9 a.m. And that's going to be in front of Judge Millian at Tucson City Court. Commit no further acts of domestic violence. And as I've indicated, don't have any contact with Mr. Fry. Don't go to where he is living or working. If you fail to appear for that hearing, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Also, that hearing and any subsequently set hearings can go forward in your absence. That would include a trial. You're convicted at trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days. You could also lose your right to appeal any conviction. Do you understand all those consequences if you fail to appear, Ms. Gredias?
Yes, I understand.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hi, tell me your full name.
Dane William McCullough.
Mr. McCullough, you are here today on warrants out of Tucson City Court for criminal trespass, littering, and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. So, Mr. McCullough, these cases are not going to go away. You have to actually go to Tucson City Court. If I release you today, will you promise to show up at a court date that I give you in January?
I promise I will go to court.
All
I
right.
promise.
I'm showing a general delivery address for you. Are those still your circumstances?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. There is a transition center. Have you ever been there before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. When you get released today, the transition center is right there adjacent to the jail. I would encourage you to stop by there and see if they can help you with housing or any other services that you may need for substance abuse. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I am going to release you on your promise to appear. You cannot return to the incident location where the criminal trespass happened. You can't have any contact with the victims that are there. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is going to be January 27th at 2:00 in the afternoon in front of Judge Verena at Tucson City Court. You do have to appear at that date and time, or they're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. All right?
All right.
All right, you're all done.
Thank you.
There.
Hi, tell me your name.
I'm Monica Luna Rivera.
Ms. Rivera, you are here this morning on a charge of domestic violence, disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services in this matter. It looks like your brother is the victim in this case. Pretrial services was not able to contact them regarding what he wanted to do for conditions of release. Are you living with your brother?
Yes, I am.
Do you have someplace else that you can go?
No, ma'am.
All right. And it looks like your boyfriend Gilbert is also living at the same place.
That's ma'am.
All right. I'm going to release you today if you promise that you'll show up at a court date that I give you in the future. Will you do that?
Yes.
All right. And you are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not going to restrict contact with your brother or your boyfriend at this time, but you must not commit any further acts of domestic violence.
Yes, ma'am.
Your next hearing is going to be in front of Judge Cranshaw at Tucson City Court. That's going to be on January 17th, 2025 at 9:30 in the morning. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork. It's going to have that date and time on it, as well as the address for city court, so you know where to go. You do need to appear at that date and time, or they can issue a warrant for your arrest. This is also the time for your arraignment on these charges. You are presumed innocent. I'm entering a not guilty plea on your behalf. I will note that I don't have a PC statement on this case, but I'm giving you your additional court date. In addition to a warrant, that hearing that I gave you on the 27th can go forward in your absence. That hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial. If a trial gets set and you get convicted, you also are going to give up your right to appeal if you can't be sentenced within 90 days of that conviction. Do you understand all the consequences if you don't show up for court?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you. God bless you.
Fence. Back out there.
Out that left door, have a seat back where you originally were sitting.
Hi, tell me your name.
Anthony Michael Spence.
Mr. Spence, you're here on warrants out of Tucson City Court involving threats and intimidation, disorderly conduct, assault, and disorderly conduct. These are domestic violence offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Looks like the victim in this case is Amber Marancio. Mr. Spence, I'm showing a general delivery address for you. Are those still your circumstances?
Yeah.
So it looks like,
Did I have to be ever like 4 years?
yeah,
Years or like that?
yeah, these offenses happened in 2020. It looks like you were given an opportunity to go to court on April 23rd of 2024, and you still didn't go to court to get this taken care of.
I didn't know. He sent it to my old.
So if I release you today, will you promise to go to court?
Yes.
All right, here's the other thing. It looks like, Jail, do you have a probation hold on him?
Yes, we do, Your Honor.
Okay, so I can release you on the city court charges, but you're not actually going to get released from jail until this probation matter gets resolved. Do you understand that, sir?
Yeah.
All right. So we'll show
Yeah.
the hold from probation. I'm going to release you on these matters. Don't commit any acts of domestic violence and don't go back to the incident location. It looks like that's going to be the 1300 block of East Benson Highway.
Yeah.
So your next hearing is going to be January 23rd at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be what's called a non-transport review hearing. So if you're still in custody, you're going to be seen via video, much like you're doing today if your probation matter is not resolved. But if your probation matter is taken care of, it's your responsibility to go to city court on January 23rd at 1:30 and see Judge Million so you can get this taken care of. All right?
All right.
If you fail to appear, they're just going to issue another warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that, Mr. Spence?
Yes.
Okay, you're all done. Hi, tell me your name.
Zoe Vanderker.
Ms. Vanderker, you were here on city court charges today for shoplifting. Looks like they're warrants out of Tucson City Court. These occurred in May of this year.
I thought they dropped those and I pled guilty to the possession. No?
I'm not showing that, Zoe. Not what's going on.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I know you're doing the drug court sanction that I imposed yesterday, so you're going to be there for a little bit.
I'm just gonna take this time to get out of my system and, you know, honestly, not even mad. I'm grateful. But thank you. I'm not even mad, to be honest. I'm grateful.
You're going to get this, Ms. Vanderker. I know you are. And you've got a team waiting to help you. So we're going to get this right. Okay. So take the time, get yourself together, and we're going to get it figured out. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So today I just want to talk about these shoplifting charges out of city court. So you'll be out of custody by January 22nd if I release you on the city court charges. So those won't be held, but we're going to need to make sure that you go to that hearing so that you can get these cases taken care of. Will you do that?
Yeah, is it where I go see you at, or where's it at?
No, it's going to be at Tucson City Court. So that's actually going to be on Alameda. So we'll make sure, talk with Anna, your probation officer, and, you know, through drug court, I'll have contact with her as well, and I'll let her know. So on this case for now, I'm going to release you. You can't go back to wherever the shoplifting occurred when you get out. And then your hearing in city court will be at city court January 22nd at 9. So we'll make sure that we get with you.
I have a question.
Okay.
So after this, I am going to the rehab or wherever you guys tell me to go. But I've heard outside the jail there's this thing called transition center, and I wanted to know before we go there if we could go there and stop there, because I heard they help you, like remind you of court dates, remind you of appointments and stuff like that, and I feel like that'll be helpful. And they help like with transportation to classes or wherever you can go for when I do get my next step. I would like them. They help with housing, jobs, and stuff like that. So I was wondering if you could talk to Anna if she's the one picking me up or whoever, if we could stop there before, if anything, so I could get more support.
Yeah, I will talk with Anna about that. So we'll meet again and we'll make sure that we talk with Anna. The transition center does have connections in the community. It's many of the same community partners we work with in drug court, Zoe. So it's going to be the same. Yeah, it'll be the same kinds of services. Okay. All right. So you do have your court date for Tucson City Court. I do need to tell you, if you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. You're going to show up, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're all done for today, Zoe.
Alright, can Anna then come see me before the 15th?
Yes, I'm sure that Anna will be out to see you before then. Okay.
Okay, I'm doing classes on the tablet, so I wanted to tell her what I'm doing.
Good. Good. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi. Tell me your full name.
Juan Rafael Camión, Cabrera.
All right. Mr. Carrion, it looks like you were here on a warrant out of Somerton Justice Court for driving on a suspended license.
I have a license now, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, it looks like you didn't at the time that the warrant was issued.
Okay.
So if I release you today,
When was this, Your Honor? I'm sorry.
looks like it was back in January of 2024, so almost a year ago.
2024. I already had a valid license, Your Honor.
That's when they issued the warrant, so I don't have the actual date of the offense. It doesn't look like on the warrant. It could, yeah, I don't know how, the case number that I have doesn't tell me if it's going to be a year. So,
It must have been, sorry, Your Honor, it must have been over 10 years ago, because I was in prison for 10 years.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to release you on this today so that the warrant will no longer be in existence, but you need to contact Somerton Justice Court. When you get released later today, it's going to have an address and also a phone number. Please call them and then they'll give you a court date and you'll be able to get this worked out. If you don't, then they're just going to end up probably issuing another warrant. I'm going to give you a court date today that I have in the system, but I don't know whether or not that's going to be a good date. So January 3rd at 9:00. When you get released from jail, you'll get a copy of this paperwork that's going to have that hearing date on it. But please call Somerton Justice Court when you get released today or tomorrow at the latest to make sure that they have that docketed and that you do need to appear at that date and time. Because if you don't show up then, they're going to issue another warrant for you. It's not going to just go away. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, you're all done for today.
So I'm being released?
Yes, you're being released.
Thank you.
Good morning. Tell me your full name.
Have a name, Brightweiser.
Sorry, tell me your name again.
Gavin.
All right, you're going to have to be clear because I don't, tell me your name again.
Gavin?
Evan, what's your last name? Okay.
Breisdwer. Brightweiser.
Right.
Middle name Dean.
Things are a little bit out of order, so I just need to pull your file. Hang on.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Brightweiser, you are here today on charges involving assault, theft, and disorderly conduct. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. And this is I've had the opportunity to review information that pretrial services provided me. It looks like you're on release in a couple of felony cases. If I release you on these city court charges, Mr. Brightweiser, you're going to have to find an alternative place to reside. Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
You're not going to be able to have contact with your mom until a further order of the court. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So for these city court charges today, I am going to release you on your promise to appear. You are not to commit any further acts of domestic violence. Do not go to your mom's house or anywhere where she is working. Your next court date is going to be January 21st, 2025, in front of Judge Sergio at 9:30 in the morning at Tucson City Court. When you get released later today, you're going to get a copy of your paperwork and it'll have that court date on it. You do need to show up at your court date at that date and time. If you fail to appear, they can issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
This is also the time for your arraignment on these charges. You are presumed innocent. I'm entering not guilty pleas on your behalf. In addition to the warrant that can be issued if you fail to appear at your hearing, they could also go forward in your absence with that hearing and any subsequently set hearings, including a trial. If you're convicted at that trial and can't be sentenced within 90 days, you're also going to lose your right to appeal that case. Do you understand all of those consequences for failing to appear?
I do.
All right, you're all done for today, Mr. Brightweiser.
Which one? What's his name? Okay. Is this a hold? David.
You tell me the time again for the mandatory hearing on the 22nd and the judge. And it's at 9.
I know it's season 140.
Is that the date that brings in?
What is it, video court?
Yeah.
Hello, Your Honor. Could I take my handcuffs off, please?
Just take us. It's gonna be really short.
I've been handcuffed for like 12 hours.
Mhm. Hi, I need you to tell me your name. Sir, the jail controls whether or not you're handcuffed, so that's up to them. I just need you to tell me your name.
Brian.
Your last name?
What's your last name?
Thanks.
Bank. All right. Mr. Bank, you are here today on charges of assault on a peace officer. You also have some misdemeanor charges of assault, threats and intimidation, disorderly conduct, and criminal trespass. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. On the felony assault charge, you do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information that was provided by pretrial services to the court on this case. I've also had a chance to review information the state has submitted regarding your conditions of release. Looks like the state is asking for a bond of $2,500. Mr. Poston.
It submits on the written record, Your Honor.
I agree.
Hang on, Mr. Bank. I'm going to hear from your attorney now before we talk about release conditions.
I don't even know what.
So, sir, now is not the time to talk about these offenses. I need to hear from your attorney about conditions of release. So I need you to stop talking so I can hear from her. Go ahead, Ms. Haggerty.
We're looking for release for Mr. Banks. He's 41 with no criminal history.
Mr. Banks, you going to stop talking?
Yes, ma'am.
So I do see that you don't have any criminal history. You seem very agitated today. I'm inclined, listen to me for a second. I can hold you on a bond, sir, or I can release you today. Okay. I'm imposing a bond in this matter. It's going to be $2,500, cash or secured. If you post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. If you don't post the bond, you'll stay in custody. If you do get released and you post that bond, you're going to be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment as directed by pretrial. Do not possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms. You're not allowed to have any contact with the victim in this case. Do you understand those conditions of release, Mr. Bank? I need someone to unmute the mic for me real quick, please. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. I have a felony bench warrant for flee to elude out of North Carolina.
Okay. I'm not showing that, but I'm sure the jail will pick up on that. Jail, do you show any kind of hold?
Well, it needs to be taken care of. I've been trying to take care of it. I live in North Carolina.
Jail, do you show anything?
No, Judge.
Okay.
Absolutely, I do. I have multiple charges.
Great.
Buncombe County.
Okay.
I don't know why you don't have it or why they don't have it. They
Okay.
don't have reciprocity or something.
Oh, they'll figure it out. So here's your next hearing date in this case is going to be December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing here just for the charges. That
All
hearing,
right, just do abuse going to continue? Am I going to be on a flap jacket and a chair and a straight stretcher and beat the fuck out of all night long for 12 hours? That's going to continue.
that hearing is a preliminary
I'm
hearing.
homicide.
That court date may or may not occur, so you need to make sure you stay in contact with your attorney. If you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Do
Deputy.
you
He's
understand?
a fucking piece of shit, and I apologize for cussing in your court. This is ridiculous.
So, Mr. Banks, do you
He's
understand?
guilty of felony, not me.
Do you understand the
How many
consequences
times do I have to tell you? I don't know. You said you looked into it.
if you fail to appear? Nope, that's not. We're here to talk about your conditions of release.
Get it? It's not a civil.
On your misdemeanor charges, sir, I am going to give you a different court date. You're going to be released on your misdemeanor charges. Your next court date is January 16th at 8:30 in the morning. That's going to be at Pima County Justice Court. If you fail to appear for any of those hearings, they're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. You're all done for today, Mr. Banks.
Well,
Thank you.
Hi, tell me your name.
Anthony Edward De La Rosa.
Mr. De La Rosa, you are here on charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon or dangerous instrument, discharging a firearm in city limits, and being in possession of a deadly weapon when you are a prohibited possessor. Does look like there was a warrant that was issued in this matter in justice court. The bond amount on the warrant was $50,000. You do have the right to remain silent on these charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. It looks like you are on probation. Does the jail have a probation hold on him?
Yeah. No, Judge.
Right. So we're here to talk about your conditions of release. I've had the opportunity to review information that the state has provided. It looks like the warrant amount was for $50,000 back in August of this year. Mr. Poston, you're requesting a $7,500 bond?
Your Honor, I was aware of the $50,000 bond. The state would modify its recommendation to coincide with that amount, given all the circumstances and the charges that look to be prohibited possessor who, in the course of an argument, pointed a pistol at the victim and then fired a shot into the air. The state has laws that pertain directly to firing gunfire into the air, and given all the circumstances, given that additional knowledge, the state moves for the $50,000.
Defend.
Judge, we're asking that Mr. De La Rosa is released to pretrial services, or if you're not inclined, a lower bond. He is working. He works with his cousin. They have a lot of work to do around Christmas. He's a lifelong resident of Tucson, and if he were released, he'd go to his mother's house.
So it does look like on this one, he was arrested in Colorado.
And Your Honor, state was not given that information about the Colorado location, so state would now add flight risk to the concerns.
I am going to impose a bond in this case of $50,000 that was on the warrant. That is going to be a cash or secured bond. If you're able to post that bond, Mr. De La Rosa, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You'll have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. Don't possess or consume any alcohol or drugs. You can't have any firearms or weapons. You are on probation. You can't have any contact with the victims in this case, and do not return to the incident location. If you do get released, you need to make sure you contact your probation officer. Your next hearing is going to be December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you will be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand your conditions of release, Mr. De La Rosa?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear for your hearings?
Yes.
All right, you're all done for today.
Thank you.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Bruce Wayne O'Loughlin.
Mr. O'Loughlin, you were here today on felony charges of possession of a dangerous drug, possession of a narcotic drug, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had an opportunity to review the state's recommendation on your conditions of release. They're asking for a $10,000 bond. I will note that based on the nature of the offenses, Mr. O'Loughlin, you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court. That would mean you would have to agree to participate in substance abuse treatment and services, stay in contact with pretrial services, which is an arm of the court. And if you successfully complete the program requirements, if you are actually eligible to participate, then the state would not go forward with these felony drug charges. Is that something that you're interested in participating in?
Definitely.
Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, I will say that given the interim complaint that alleges 107 grams of M30s, which based on the usual conversion is over 1,000 pills and 23 grams of methamphetamine, I can tell you right now, Your Honor, this person is not STEPS eligible. These are dealer weight charges. This individual has a long arrest and parole probation violation history. $10,000 is the appropriate amount in the state's opinion.
Defense?
Judge, he was identified as eligible to be screened by Smart Court, so we're asking that he has the opportunity to be screened by Smart Court. We're asking for his release to pretrial services. He does work in landscaping. He's scheduled to work this week. The charge is identified as nonviolent. Again, he was identified as potentially eligible for Smart Court, so we're asking for that opportunity for him to be screened.
Your Honor,
Mr. Poston?
I am the Smart Court attorney. I can tell the court right now, this is not Smart Court eligible.
Okay. So with the state indicating that Smart is not going to be eligible, basically, Mr. O'Laughlin, what's going on here is pretrial services is indicated, and that's just by looking at your charges, the drug charges, that you would be eligible to participate in the substance abuse treatment court. Ultimately, it's up to the state to decide whether or not that's something they're going to permit you to participate in. Mr. Poston is telling me today that he is not going to allow that to happen based on the charges and the amount of the drugs in this particular case. So what I'm going to do to give your attorney a chance to kind of sort this out, I am going to release you today to pretrial services. You're going to need to stay in touch with that agency, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct, don't possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons. Because, Mr. Poston, you've indicated that you don't believe that you're going to have him be eligible or you're not going to make that offer from the state, I'm not going to ask him to waive time for the preliminary hearing, but I am going to give him a Smart Court hearing date. So if the defense wants to talk with you or someone in the office about whether or not he should be allowed to participate, I'll give him that opportunity. So, Mr. O'Laughlin, what that means is I'm going to set a hearing for you next week, December 24th at 9 a.m. in front of Judge Hampson. That's going to be in Pima County Superior Court on the 3rd floor. Go to that hearing and you'll meet with your attorney from the public defender's office and there'll be treatment providers there. The prosecutor will also be at that hearing and you'll find out whether or not you're going to be given a chance to participate in the program. If you're not, then you'll be turned away and your preliminary hearing date, the next court date in this case, is going to be January 6th at 1:30. So if you're not eligible, then the preliminary hearing will be January 6th at 1:30. That date may or may not happen, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. It's going to be important that you stay in contact with the public defender's office as well as pretrial services. Do you understand that, Mr. O'Laughlin?
Yes, ma'am.
And
Judge, I'm so sorry. I missed the Smart Court date.
it's December 24th at 9. And then the preliminary hearing date is January 6, 2025 at 1:30. I'm going to use, Ms. Haggerty, the out of custody date on this.
Thank you, Judge.
Given what the state has indicated. All right. You're all done for today, Mr. O'Laughlin.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, sir, tell me your name.
Ricardo Valdez.
Mr. Valdez, you were here today on charges of indirectly pointing a laser at an occupied aircraft. It is a Class 6 felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I am going to appoint the Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They're asking for a $5,000 bond. State.
Your Honor, pointing a laser at an occupied aircraft in flight can cause blindness of the flight crew and then can cause a potential mishap, destroying the aircraft, killing the air crew, and killing anybody who is unfortunate enough to be in the crash zone of said aircraft. It is not a insignificant offense. It could have caused an aviation mishap. This is very dangerous, Your Honor. 5,000.
Defense.
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Valdez is released to pretrial services, or if you're not inclined, a lower bond. He works full-time in construction. He has ties to Tucson. Pretrial services identified these charges as nonviolent. If he were released, he'd go home to his brother's home. Pretrial services was able to confirm housing with his supervisor. So he has 2 housing options.
I will note that the criminal history is old and doesn't have any offenses like this at all. They all appear to be substance abuse related. And many of them are much older than that. So, Mr. Valdez, I am going to release you today to pretrial services, which means you're going to have to stay in contact with that agency. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. You are also not allowed to be in any possession of laser pointers, given the nature of these charges. So you are not allowed to have them. Don't go anywhere near them. Don't use them. Don't hold them. Don't have anything to do with them. Do you understand?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Are you willing to abide by all those conditions of release?
Yes, I am.
Your next hearing is going to be January 6, 2025 at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for appearing at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. It's important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that the date changes. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, I do understand.
All right, you're all done for today.
Your Honor, on Mr. Batson Lewis, the state's going to modify his recommendation or reduce that to 1/3 of the original written amount.
Okay. Hi, tell me your name.
Jeremiah Batson Lewis.
Mr. Lewis, you are here on multiple cases here today. You are here on felony charges of possession of a narcotic drug and drug paraphernalia. We also have a warrant out of Pima County Justice Court for shoplifting, a couple of those, and also a criminal trespass. And then we have a city court matter where there is a warrant for unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia and criminal trespass as well. You do have the right to remain silent on all of those charges. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on the felony matters. I'm going to appoint the Public Defender's Office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Based on the nature of the charges, they have indicated that you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court. What that means, Mr. Batson Lewis, is if you are eligible to participate, you'd have to attend a substance abuse treatment, inpatient or outpatient, and stay in contact with pretrial services, which is an arm of the court. If you do all of that and successfully complete the terms of that program, the state will not go forward with these felony charges against you. I don't know if you're going to be eligible or not, but we can set a hearing for you next week if you're interested in that participation.
Okay.
Is that something you'd be interested in?
Yes.
All right. The state is recommending that I impose a bond at this time. Mr. Poston.
Your Honor, state recommends $5,000. This defendant has an absolutely extensive history of drug charges and failures to appear. Also has some prior crimes that can be characterized as violent. It would appear that in a particular case, he may be on probation, felony probation. I needed to ask the court if they were aware whether or not there is a hold. I will also note that he is a 6 out of 6 on both scales.
Jail, I'm not showing a probation hold. Do you have a probation hold at this time?
No hold, Judge.
Okay.
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Batson Lewis is released to pretrial services. Pretrial services identified this as a nonviolent felony. He may be eligible for smart court. He had lifelong ties to Tucson. And if he were released, he'd go to his mother's house. So we're asking that he's released to pretrial services.
So Mr. Batson Lewis, I'm going to release you to pretrial, but here's the thing. Probation, you're on probation for similar offenses. You were placed on probation in March of this year, and it looks like you've got 18 months to do. Not showing any probation violations, but obviously this new offense isn't probation. So.
Yeah, I'm in constant contact with police.
I think you were about to tell me that you are in contact with your probation officer, so I'm going to encourage you to continue to do that. When you get released later today, you do need to contact your probation officer today when you get released. Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next hearing is going to be the substance abuse treatment court hearing. That's going to be on December 24th at 9 a.m. That's going to be on the 3rd floor of Pima County Superior Court. You're going to see Judge Hampson. You'll find out at that hearing whether or not you're going to be eligible to participate in the substance abuse treatment court. If you are, you'll meet with your attorney there, pretrial services will be there, and also service providers in the community that may be able to assist you with services as well will be there. You are going to have to stay in contact with pretrial services, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or drugs, and you can't have any firearms or weapons while this case is going on. Are we willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing in this matter?
Yes, Judge.
All right. So what I just asked your attorney, Mr. Batson Lewis, is normally the state would have 20 days to indict you when I release you. And because we're giving you an opportunity to see if you're eligible to participate in a treatment court, I'm going to give the state some extra time on that. Your attorney has indicated that that's okay. So we're going to give them 45 days. So if you're not eligible for the substance abuse treatment court when you go next week, your next hearing on your new felony cases is going to be January 31st, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's going to be a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you are expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, they're going to issue warrants for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So I know that the attorney is writing down all of these court dates for you. You're going to be getting a couple other court dates today. On your shoplifting cases, the 2 from Justice Court, I am going to release you on those as well, but you have to go to court. When you get released later today, you're going to have this appearance order with release conditions. I would encourage you to talk with your probation officer about these as well. And you're probably not on Reconnect, are you, with probation?
No.
Do you know anything about that? Okay. All right.
No.
Your next hearing on your justice court cases, both of them are going to be together, is going to be January 16th, 2025 at 8:30 in the morning. Do not go back to wherever the shopliftings occurred. The victims are there. You can't have any contact with them. And again, if you don't show up for that date, they're going to issue a warrant. Do you understand?
Good.
All right. Mr. Basson Lewis, I know it's easy for you to get caught up in life, work, whatever else, and ignore these court dates. But the more you do that, the more you're going to find yourself back in jail. If you're on probation, use those services to help you get these other cases resolved. We've got one other case to talk about, and that's your Tucson City Court matter. I'm going to release you on that matter as well. You do have to show up in court on January 21st, 2025 at 2:30 in front of Judge Cranshaw. Same thing, don't go back to the incident location where the criminal trespass occurred. That's where the victims are, and you cannot go back there. If you fail to appear, city court will issue a warrant for you too. Do you understand all of that? You're all done.
Just confirm, January 21 is the city court, right?
Yes. Thank you.
So we
Ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Hi, tell me your name.
Jennifer Bell.
Ms. Bell, you are here today on a warrant out of Sierra Vista Justice Court.
Yes.
You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. These are felony drug charges, a narcotic drug possession and drug paraphernalia charge. The bond amount on the warrant is $5,000. You're also here on Tucson City Court cases involving DUIs, and you do have warrants out for your arrest on, it looks like, 3 charges, the 2 DUI charges and a drug paraphernalia charge. You have the right to remain silent on all of these. Anything you say can and will be used against you. I am going to impose the $5,000 cash or secured bond out of Sierra Vista. If you're going to release her on the felony, she has to contact. It's going to be Cochise. Yeah, she calls her and if you're holding her, that's the date. All right, so Ms. Bell, I don't have a next court date for you in Cochise County. So you have the $5,000 cash or secured bond that you'll have to post. If you post that bond, then you'll be released and you're going to have to call Cochise County Superior Court to get that taken care of. If you can't post the bond, then the jail will notify Cochise County and they will decide if they're going to come get you. What I'm going to do is set another court date here because we've got some other matters from Tucson City Court we're going to talk about. So you're going to get a review hearing date on this Cochise County case here in Pima County, just in case for some reason you're still in custody. I don't expect you to be, but that review hearing date is going to be January 17th at 9 o'clock in the morning. So if you're still in the Pima County Jail at that date and time, we'll see you again just to figure out what's going on. Do you understand all that?
Yeah.
All right. And then we need to look at your city court cases. I have an address for you on West Kimberly. Is that a good address for you?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm just looking through your city court files, ma'am. Give me just a second. Looks like you were supposed to have appeared multiple times. It looks like December of 2023, February of 2024 is when you did not appear. And they issued a warrant for your arrest. So Miss Bell, if I released you on the city court matters, you've got to go back to court and actually show up and deal with those. Will you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do not drive without a valid license, possess or consume no alcohol or illegal drugs. Those are your conditions, and I'm going to show that you're being released. I'm going to set what's called a non-transport review hearing in Tucson City Court. So your next court date is going to be January 17th at 9:30 in the morning. If for some reason you're still in custody, and I don't think you will be here because you're not going to be held on the city court matters. So what's going to happen is the jail's going to let Cochise County know that they can come get you, or you post the bond and contact them. But you're going to have to be in Tucson City Court on January 17th at 9:30 in the morning in front of Judge Cranshaw. If you fail to appear, they're going to issue a warrant for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, I don't think that this is an issue, but the review hearing and the city court are the same day at the same time.
It's not going to be a problem, but thank you.
No, I'm not gonna get out. I'm gonna.
Oh.
Thunder.
Hi, tell me your name.
Zachariah Ripley.
All right, you are here today on charge of theft of means of transportation. It is a felony. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you do have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this case. I've also had a chance to review information provided by the state with respect to their recommendation on conditions of release. We're also going to have a city court matter that we need to talk about as well, sir, that involves interfering with the judicial proceeding. That's basically violating a court order in the DV case. State.
Your Honor, the state would modify its written recommendation to $5,000. This person was served with an order of protection, and in going to obtain this person's vehicle, essentially stealing his ex's vehicle, not only violated the OP, but also violated the law. We're seeing, and there is a looks like there is a post Miranda admission, and this person presents an ongoing risk against the victim. He does not seem to know what an order of protection means, or doesn't seem to know that he's required to comply with it. He's flaunted the court's authority, and Your Honor, at least $5,000.
Ben.
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Reflay is released to pretrial services, or if you're not inclined, a lower bond. He is fully employed. He's scheduled to work tomorrow. He's been with the same landscaping company for 5 years. Pretrial services identified this as a nonviolent felony. He's lived in Tucson for over 20 years. It appears he has no felony history, and if you're released, he'd go to his brother's house.
I am going to impose a $2,500 cash or secured bond at this time. If you post that bond, then you'll be released to pretrial services. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Commit no acts of domestic violence. And most importantly, do not have any contact with your mother. Don't go to where she's living. Don't go to where she's working. Absolutely no contact. That order applies to you, sir, while you're in custody. You may be given access to phones, tablets, email. You are not to have any contact with her. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your next court date is going to be December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be responsible for showing up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. If you're still in custody, the jail will transport you to your next hearing. But if you post bond and you get released, it's your responsibility to stay in contact with your attorney so that you know when the next court date is. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As to your Tucson City court case, you are being held on the felony. I am going to release you and set what's called a non-transport review hearing in Tucson City Court in front of Judge Mayhew. That hearing is going to be January 22nd, 2025 at 2:00 in the afternoon. If you are still in custody on your felony matter, then you'll be seen via video, much like you're doing here today. If you do get released, it's your responsibility to show up to city court on that date and time. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Same conditions, have no contact with your mom, absolutely none. Don't go anywhere near where she is. The order of protection is still in effect in addition to this court's orders. Do you understand those conditions?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're all done for today.
$2,500.
Glover.
Hi, tell me your name.
Patrick Glover.
Mr. Glover, you are here this morning on felony charges of unlawful flight from law enforcement, possession of a narcotic drug, and drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. It's like they're recommending a $5,000 bond. Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, the person lives out of state. PTS stated that he had a warrant, and after unlawfully fleeing from the police, he was found in possession of naloxone, a prescription narcotic drug. He has a history of ACDV out of state, and there's quite the flight risk here, Your Honor. 5,000.
Defend.
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Glover is released to pretrial services. He is fully employed. He's been with the same company for 5 years. He moved to Arizona with that company. Pretrial services identified this as a nonviolent felony. He has housing here in Arizona. And again, he's moved to Arizona. He's moved to Tucson area, Marana. So he has the intention to stay here for the duration of his case. And again, he moved here with his company and he's been with the same company for 5 years.
Mr. Glover, you do have a local address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm going to release you to pretrial services. You're going to be required to tell pretrial services what that local address is. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. They need a local address, not your one in Tennessee. And you're going to have to remain here while these charges are pending, unless you get permission from some other judge. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you're being released today to pretrial services. You're ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while this case is going on. Your next hearing is a preliminary hearing on January 6, 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon. That hearing may or may not occur, but you're responsible for showing up at all future court dates. which means you need to stay in contact with your attorney in the event that that date changes. If you don't show up when you're supposed to be there, they'll issue a warrant for you. Do you understand the consequences for failing to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you understand all of those conditions of release that I imposed here today, and will you abide by them?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
Right, you're all done.
Thanks.
Hey, come. Well. Lopez.
Hi, tell me your name.
Elizabeth Lopez.
Ms. Lopez, you are here today on, it's like a warrant out of Tucson City Court, and also for felony charges involving organized retail theft, a couple of counts, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on the felony charges. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. Tells me a little bit about you, the nature of the offense. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. Looks like they're asking for a $5,000 bond. Mr. Poston?
It submits on the written record, Your Honor.
I am inclined to release to pretrial. Does defense want to be heard?
No, Judge.
So Ms. Lopez, I'm going to release you to pretrial services today. You're going to be ordered to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs. You cannot have any firearms while this case is going on. You cannot have any contact with the victims of the organized retail theft, and you're not allowed to return to the incident location. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, I do.
All right, your next court date in the felony case is going to be January 6, 2025. That's a preliminary hearing at 1:30. That hearing may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future hearings, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Because you're being released, it's going to be important that you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that the court dates change. We also need to talk about your Tucson City Court case. It looks like they issued a warrant. It looks like you were camping in a park, and that's the charge. I'm going to release you on your promise to appear on that case. Do not return to the incident location in that matter. Your next court date is going to be January 22nd, 2025 at 9 o'clock in front of Judge Mayhew. Same thing, if you don't show up, they can issue another warrant for your arrest. You need to make sure you get that matter taken care of. Okay, Ms. Lopez?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're all done for today.
Thank you.
Yes, Alexander. So,
Do we have Connors?
yes.
Okay.
Hi, tell me your name.
My name is Alexander Martinez.
Mr. Martinez, you are here today on felony charges of aggravated domestic violence, disorderly conduct, aggravated domestic violence, criminal damage. These are all felony offenses. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. The court will note that I have had an opportunity to review the Form 4C, the Intimate Partner Risk Assessment Form, and I'm taking that into consideration with respect to conditions of release. I've also had the chance to review information that's been provided to the court by pretrial services. The state is recommending a $5,000 bond. State?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, that should have been 15. I apologize. This was a physical struggle between the parties, and there were punches thrown and punches landed. State is concerned and notes the 4C as well.
Defense?
Judge, we're asking that Mr. Martinez is released to pretrial services. He has no criminal history at 46. He's retired military, and he's 100% disabled from the military. He has a newborn son. The son is a month old. The son has a seizure disorder, and Mr. Martinez is the primary caregiver of the son. So he has significant ties to Tucson. Additionally, the victim in this case does not object to release. She is going to stay at the home, but she welcomes him to return, according to her. And Judge, just on housing, typically they live separately. They're staying together. They have separate residences. They're staying together right now because they have a newborn, but they don't intend to live together. However, since she's at the house, he can secure housing away from her while she gets new housing, or they can get the housing situation figured out so that they live separately if you're inclined to not to allow them to have contact. But we are asking for his release to pretrial services. He can get his own housing. He's also can get housing with a good friend of his. So again, Judge, we're asking that he's released to pretrial services, 46 with no criminal history and retired military.
I am going to release you to pretrial services, Mr. Martinez, today. You're going to have to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't commit any further acts of domestic violence. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs and no firearms while this case is going on. Do you understand all of that?
Yes, ma'am.
With respect to contact with the victim, I will note that Ms. Machado did indicate that she doesn't object to your release and that she is fine having contact. The court does have some concerns. I'm going to allow contact between the two of you for the sole purpose of parenting your newborn. That's it. It sounds like you have the ability to stay at a separate location, so the two of you should reside apart, but to the extent that you have to have contact to be able to take care of the baby, to, for you to take the baby, whatever's going on, that is the sole purpose for the two of you to have any contact to avoid any future incidents or altercations. Can you do that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So for the sole purpose of parenting the baby, you can have contact with her. Otherwise, no contact for any reason. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Your next court date in this case is going to be January 6th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you'll be expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, they could issue a warrant for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, it's going to be important that you stay in contact with your attorney so that you know if any of the court dates change. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
I do understand.
you're all done for today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Middleton.
Hi, tell me your name.
Nicholas Middleton.
Mr. Middleton, you are here today on charges of possession of a narcotic drug and possession of drug paraphernalia. These are felony charges. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had a chance to review information provided by pretrial services. It looks like you may be eligible to participate in a substance abuse treatment court. What that means, sir, is if you are eligible and you do get substance abuse treatment and stay in contact with pretrial services, complete the program requirements, the state's not going to go forward with these felony charges. Is that something you're interested in doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. With that, counsel, I'm inclined to release him to pretrial services. I do note that's the state's recommendation as well. Does either counsel need to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge, we just asked to set the steps hearing.
So I'm going to give you a couple of different court dates, Mr. Middleton. The first is going to be the hearing to see if you're eligible to participate in the substance abuse treatment court. That's going to be December 24th at 9 o'clock, Pima County Superior Court, 3rd floor. You must go to that hearing. At that hearing, you're going to meet your attorney, pretrial services will be present, and you'll also have contact with treatment providers so that they can set you up with services there. You'll learn what's going to be expected of you to participate in that program. And then again, if you successfully graduate, the state won't go forward with the charges. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs and no firearms while this case is going on. We're willing to waive time for the preliminary hearing?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Middleton, if for some reason that hearing on the 24th, they determine you're not eligible or you decide not to participate, the next hearing after that's going to be January 27th, 2025 at 1:30, and that's a preliminary hearing. What I asked your attorney is to give the state more time to decide if they're going to indict you because they're giving you the opportunity to participate in substance abuse treatment court. So when I asked your attorney to waive time, instead of 20 days for them to file charges, we're going to give them 45 days. That's where the January 27th date comes into play. So you will be responsible for showing up at your court dates, and if you fail to appear, a warrant could issue for your arrest. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You also have a city court warrant for criminal trespass and drug paraphernalia. I'm going to release you on those charges as well today. Don't possess or consume any alcohol or illegal drugs, so same conditions as your felony. I'm going to give you a new court date in Tucson City Court. That is going to be the same day, January 27th, 2025 at 2:00 in the afternoon. So the same day as your preliminary hearing. All right. You're going to have an attorney from the public defender's office, talk with them about that. You should be able to make it to both of those hearings, I would imagine. If the preliminary hearing does go forward, they'll figure it out for you. If you don't go to that hearing in city court, they're going to issue a warrant for you. The matter's not going to go away. Mr. Middleton, you've got to get it taken care of. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right, you're all done.
Perez. Carlos.
Hi, tell me your full name.
Carlos Perez.
Mr. Perez, you're here today on a weapons misconduct charge. It is a felony offense. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had a chance to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. They're asking for a $5,000 bond. Mr. Poston?
Your Honor, not only was this person 18 years old and not old enough to own a weapon, but we are also seeing that he had a Glock pistol with an illegal switch on it that, when activated, allows the weapon to fire fully automatically, which is illegal on several levels, state and federal. Based on this, Your Honor, and taking into account his age, the state would have been asking for more if he were older, $5,000.
Defense?
Judge, we're asking that Carlos is released to pretrial services. He's employed at Wendy's. He's been with Wendy's for almost a year. Pretrial services identified these charges as nonviolent. He has lifelong ties to Tucson and no priors. So we're asking that he's released to pretrial services.
Mr. Perez, I am going to release you to pretrial services today. So you're going to get released, but you have to stay in contact with pretrial services. Participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs. You cannot have any firearms while this case is going on. So whatever guns you may have, wherever it is that you are living, you need to surrender those firearms to the police department, the Tucson Police Department. You're going to need to talk to your attorney about how to do that if you have any other weapons. Do you understand?
Yes.
Your next court date in this case is going to be January 6th, 2025 at 1:30. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates or a warrant can issue for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, it's important you stay in contact with your attorney and pretrial services in the event that the date changes. Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right, you're all done.
Staying arrested.
Hi, tell me your full name.
David William Perez.
Mr. Perez, you are here today on charges of weapons misconduct as a prohibited possessor. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney in this matter. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. It does look like you are currently on probation. Jail, are you showing a hold at all?
Yes. Yes, Judge.
Okay. So what that means, Mr. Perez, is that because you're on probation, they have placed a hold on you. So regardless of what I do on this case here today, you're still going to be held until that probation matter is resolved. I've had an opportunity to review the information pretrial services gave me, as well as the state's recommendation as to your conditions of release. They've asked for a $5,000 bond. I will tell everyone that is my inclination, is a $5,000 cash or secured bond released to pretrial if he can post it. State, do you need to be heard further?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
Judge, we're asking for a $1,000 bond. Pretrial services identified this as nonviolent.
I am going to impose a bond in the amount of $5,000 cash or secured today. If you're able to post that bond, Mr. Perez, then you'll be released to pretrial services, participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct, no alcohol or illegal drugs, and you are not allowed to have any guns. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Your next court date is December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That date may or may not occur, but you're expected to show up at all future hearings. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done.
Quintana. Perez.
Hello, Your Honor.
Tell me your name.
Osvaldo Quintana Diaz.
Mr. Quintana Diaz, you are here today on a felony charge of aggravated harassment. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. We're also here to talk about city court matters involving domestic violence, harassment by communication, and failing to comply with a court order. We do have a victim on the line. We're here to talk about your conditions of release on these matters here today. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. On the felony matters, you do have the right to an attorney. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation as to conditions of release. They're asking for a $15,000 bond. The victim at this time, did you want to be heard as to conditions of release?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What would you like to tell me as to conditions of release? First, tell me your name.
Good morning, Judge. My name is Roxanne Robles. Thank you for speaking with me today. In terms of the release, so what I have is fear. I'm concerned for my own safety, as well as for the safety of my daughters. Given the defendant's past behavior, his recent violations of the order of protection, I fear that my daughter may also be at risk if he is released. My biggest concern is that he will retaliate for the arrest. I have physically, emotionally, and mentally been abused by him in the past and during these past events within this last week. So I don't trust that he won't come after me or harm me or potentially our child.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Poston.
The other thing, Your Honor, the state would add is the allegations include 6 voicemails, 23 emails, 8 texts, twice showed up in person at the location, and 99 phone calls. State is very concerned, and it seems those concerns are vindicated by the victim's statements just now. The state would be comfortable with 10,000.
Defense, I will tell you I'm at $20,000 cash or secured.
Judge, we're asking that you reconsider in either a lower bond or release Mr. Quintana Perez to pretrial services. He is fully employed as a machinist. He's scheduled to work this week. He has lifelong ties to Tucson and no prior felonies.
Mr. Quintana Diaz, I am going to impose a bond today of $20,000. That's cash or secured. If you do post that bond, then you're going to be released to pretrial services. You're to participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You're not allowed to have any alcohol or illegal drugs, and you can't have any firearms while the case is going on. Commit no acts of domestic violence. And very importantly, you are not to have any contact with the victim. Do not go to her house. Do not go where she works. She doesn't exist to you. You're not allowed to call her. You're not allowed to text her. You're not allowed to communicate with her on social media. She does not exist in your world. That applies to you even while you're in custody. So for as long as you remain in custody, you may be given access to phones, tablets, emails. You are not to have contact with her. Do you understand those conditions of release?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your next hearing in this case is going to be December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you'll be expected to show up at all future court dates. And if you fail to appear, a warrant can issue for your arrest. If you're in custody, the jail will make sure you get transported to your next hearing. But if you post bond, it's your responsibility to stay in contact with your attorney so that you don't miss court dates. We also need to talk about your city court matter. And this does involve harassment by communication and interfering with the judicial proceeding. This does involve the same victim. You are being held on the felony matter, so I'm going to release you on the city court charges and set what's called a non-transport review hearing for you. Actually, you're going to be in front of Judge Million. I'm going to set a video review hearing date of December 23rd at 1:30.
There, Your Honor.
So if you're still in custody, what'll happen is you'll appear via video. If you end up bonding out, you are ordered to appear at city court at that date and time. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that a failure to appear could result in a warrant for your arrest?
Yes, Your Honor.
The same conditions of release apply. Absolutely no contact with the victim in this case and commit no acts of domestic violence. You're all done for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, tell me your name.
Chris Cutters.
Mr. Connors, you are here today on charges of possession of dangerous drug for sale, possession of narcotic drugs, and possession of drug paraphernalia. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on these matters. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. I've had an opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services on this matter. I've also had a chance to review information from the state. It looks like they're asking for a $7,500 bond. I will note that you have a DOC hold. So regardless of what we do on this case here today, you're going to be held until that DOC matter can be taken care of. Do you understand that, Mr. Connors?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm inclined to hold him on a $2,500 cash or secured bond and release to pretrial if for some reason things get resolved. Does anyone wish to be heard further? State?
No, Your Honor.
Defense?
No, Judge.
So Mr. Connors, for these new charges, you're going to be held on a $2,500 cash or secured bond. You'll be released to pretrial if the DOC matter gets cleared up and you get released and you post that bond. Participate in any monitoring or treatment they direct. You can't have any alcohol or illegal drugs and no firearms while the case is going on. Your next court date is December 27th at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not appear, but you're expected to show up at all future court dates or a warrant could issue for your arrest. If you're still in custody, the jail will make sure to transport you to your next hearing. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear?
Yeah.
Okay, you're all done for today, Mr. Connors.
Thank you.
That's the other one. It's your paperwork.
Hi, tell me your name.
Marco Romero.
Mr. Romero, you are here on a theft charge today. You do have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You do have the right to an attorney on this matter. I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, and you have counsel seated with you for purposes of the hearing here today. It does look like this is well, it is a felony offense. It looks like it's a class 2 felony. I've had the opportunity to review information provided by pretrial services. I've also had a chance to review the state's recommendation. Looks like they're asking for a $2,500 bond. Mr. Poston?
State submits.
I'm inclined to release to pretrial. Defense?
Nothing to add, Judge.
So, Mr. Romero, what that means is I'm going to release you to pretrial services today. You are not to have any contact with the victim in this case and do not return to the incident location. You can't have any alcohol or drugs while this case is going on, have any firearms. You're to participate in any treatment or services pretrial services may direct you to. Do you understand all those conditions of release?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Right. Your next court date is going to be January 6th. 2025 at 1:30 in the afternoon. That's a preliminary hearing. That court date may or may not occur, but you're going to be expected to show up at all future court dates or a warrant could be issued for your arrest. Because you're going to be out of custody, you need to make sure you stay in contact with your attorney in the event that the court dates change. Do you understand the consequences if you fail to appear, Mr. Romero?
Yes, ma'am.
You're all done for today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for your help today. It was a long morning. I will see you all tomorrow.